Well, this is an interesting story that we're going to talk about today, and one that I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of in the coming years. We are chatting with Jeff Revilla. He is the founder of Poduty Live. It is out in Tarentum, PA, just outside of Pittsburgh. It is a podcast theater. And like I was saying, I think the idea of live podcasting into events is, really going to grow in the coming years, and super interested to learn more about the space and your background. So, Jeff, thanks for being on the show with us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Having a good time already. We were having fun backstage, and I think it's going to continue for the next 20 minutes or so.
I will do my best to keep things light and fun and happy. So before we talk about Poduty Live and what you're doing right now, how did you get into podcasting and content creation in general?
Yeah, podcasting for me, I kind of fell into it in 2006, 2007. I have my first color iPod that was inscribed for Father's Day, and I fell in love with shows like Marketing Over Coffee. I think Joseph Jaffe was doing AdVerCast at that time. It was a long time ago. The Beancast was one that I listened to early on, and I love this idea that I could create something and put it out into the world. And I wasn't restricted by, there were no gatekeepers. Literally, if I could record it and put it out in the world, it was there. And I tried it for the first time in 2011, and I had no idea, what an RSS feed was or how to distribute audio through an MP3 file. None of that idea. And it wasn't until about 2015 that I put all the pieces together and I did my first trivia show. And that's really how I fell into making things interactive and bringing an audience into a show and just having a good time together as a group. And it's really evolved, over the last 10 years to where I'm at now.
So you launched the Stuff I Never Knew trivia game show back in 2015. Like you said, it was this interactive experience. And not that technology was ancient or terrible back in 2015, but obviously the tools that we have today are light years ahead of it. What were you using back then to get that live experience, to get that engagement with your audience, as opposed to just talking at them, which so many podcasters are used to doing?
I'm one of those crazy people that you'll hear rambling on and on and on and on about a platform called Blab. And if
I
you're
remember
around,
Blab. Oh my God, yes.
if you were around in 2015 and you were on Blab, you witnessed a great time in internet history where it was one of the first four in the box on the screen, and you could go live, and Blab had such this great social element to it that within 3 minutes Blab would flood your live stream with 30 to 50 people, and people would be typing commands and making it snow and giving props. And it was this great chaotic community element. And it lasted for a couple years, and it got crazy, and they couldn't keep up with the growth, and it folded eventually. But Blab left a huge hole in the market, and especially for people like me, a huge hole in my heart for this ability to be able to connect in real time. And that's how I did my trivia show. At first it was, I'd had nobody booked. I would go live, and the first 8 people who wanted to play, I was doing a game show with 8 contestants that weren't booked prior to me going live. That's how powerful Blab was. And I always loved that idea that, we could do all this together. Podcasting could be more than me just sitting in my home office where I'm at now and just talking one-on-one. It could be something so much bigger, and it can be an event. It can be an extravaganza. It can be, a bunch of crazies just sitting together and making fun of each other. And I just fell in love with the community element and adding that into the podcasting, which is really, it's more intimate. It's almost one-on-one. When you're commuting to work or you're exercising and you're listening to the podcast, it feels like you're in the room with them. It feels like it's this one-on-one interaction. And I was like, well, what if we did it as a party, right? We can make this way bigger than I think it really is.
So what then? So I guess it was the loss of Blab and the experience that you have doing this in front of a live audience. Is that what led to the idea for this theater? Like, take us through from 2015, you start the show, to where we are today with Poduty Live out in Western PA.
Yeah, we tried recreating it so many times. We used Appear-In and Google Hangouts and YouTube Live, and we tried all these other things. Facebook Live was relevant for a little bit for small creators, and nothing just really did it. So About 2018, I came up with this idea. Well, I'm just going to go out into the world, and I wanted to design a theater, a production that I could fit in the back of my sedan. So I had like everything. I had speakers, microphones, mixers. I had a podium that I could just wheel around and ask and do trivia. And I thought, oh, it'd be fun to like go to people's basements during a party and host a game show like while there's a raging kegger going on in the garage. Like it would be something I could do anywhere, and I wasn't restricted by a physical space. And I kept thinking about that, and then I started to book. I booked my first real show. We are gonna do free tacos and trivia, March 30th, 2020. We were very excited. We were going to get it done, and then it just so happened it wasn't the best timing.
A little bit of a shutdown happening.
So because of COVID, I took this podcast anywhere pop-up theater idea, and we were indoors. We were stuck inside, and I said, well, what if we could have a theater and we weren't bound by the capacity of the room? And I put some thoughts together, and I actually presented this at Podfest Origins in 2020. So I came up with this infinite seat theater idea, and that's, if you look behind me, my theater is 40 seats, right? It's 40 people, but I can live stream to thousands, and that's kind of how this all evolved. Is how can I do something with an audience, but also do it virtually so that anyone anywhere at any time could pop in and see what's happening here.
I mean, right now, right, between going all the way back to the days of Blab and Meerkat, right, some of the other ones when live streaming kind of became a thing, and now today, obviously, live streaming is just everywhere, right? People go live on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and now LinkedIn and TikTok, right? Like we're just constantly doing live stuff virtually to our audience. But this idea of bringing people together, bringing people into a space, I think is so exciting for podcasters. I've been a part of a couple of live podcasting events, and I've just been seeing increased interest in podcasters going out and doing their thing in front of an audience and feeding off that energy and being able to have that in-person interaction. So what's it like for podcasters who are coming in to use your space, right? Like what can they expect? What is the workflow? What do they have to know? What do they have to think of? How do they prep to be in person, possibly for the first time ever?
Yeah, it is a little different, right? You're not sitting in your home studio. You're not re-recording things. You're learning how to, or taking, doing multiple takes to get it right so that you can fix it in post. What we want to learn is there's like almost like a muscle to hosting, a muscle to live performance. And what we do is, prior to the show, we book the show and we look at the elements of their show. What pieces will adapt well to the stage? What plays well with an audience? And we start to craft. We want to kind of get into that 60 to 90 minute. It can include a break. Sometimes I say, include a meet and greet. If you do smaller shows, we'll call it a 2-show event. You're going to do 2 shows. We'll break in the middle. You can talk to the people who are attending, ask questions, Q&A one-on-one. And we try to just structure something so that we're giving value to the audience, because most of these podcasters they're really in between now. And that once they go from recording in their home office to what they see as comedians and actors who have launched podcasts, they're filling theaters and they're filling arenas. Well, where I'm in the middle there. I'm trying to be that stepping stone. How do we get out of the house, out of our home studios, into a live environment, so that when larger podcasts come through into town and they need opening acts, just like you see with music venues, and music acts need opening acts. I believe if we look at the trajectory of podcasting, they're not going to be able to continue to sell arena seats for $120 and only give them a 45 to 60-minute show. That's not going to last forever. So we're going to need a mediary. We're going to need opening acts. And that's really what you mentioned. You're going to see a lot of spaces like this pop up. I really feel like this is that middle stepping stone to get podcasters into that live environment. We structure their show, we help craft it so that this is a product that they proudly can present. And once they understand that dynamic with working with a live audience, they can take that to a bar. They can take that, libraries sometimes do pop-up shows and community centers. They can start to think of this in a whole new concept, a whole new, aspect of their show.
What would you say is the biggest problem that first time users of a live space run into, right? What is that big challenge that you see over and over again that you wish they could be better prepared for?
Yeah, a lot of people don't even get this concept until I show it to them. But there's people who walk in and they kind of understand it. I just did a tour tonight, and what we thought would be like a 20-minute walkthrough ended up being a 90-minute brainstorm session because he's like, "Oh, I have another show, and my friend does this. Oh, you can do that here." You know, you start to see all the potential once you immerse yourself in it. So I get it. It's a different concept. It's newer than what most people have been thinking about. I've been thinking about it for 7 years, and I'm just now understanding that nobody else has been thinking about it. So getting people up to speed because there a lot of people don't think about doing a live podcast at all. They may have never even thought about it. They thought live streaming was enough. So developing them for the stage is something that they really need to, that's something that really catches people off guard. But what doesn't catch them off guard is once they go through the process the first time, you come off stage and you are juiced, right? You are elated beyond belief. You never thought you could have that kind of emotion, that kind of rush. That's something else that people aren't prepared for. Is the first time they come off stage, like for their first show. It's quite a rush.
I got to imagine it is a great feeling to come off stage and feel that, rush, feel that energy, feel that adrenaline pumping after doing a live show. I also imagine, and what I've sort of seen in my own experience is that it is more effective way to directly connect with your audience and turn a casual listener or low grade fan into a super fan and to an advocate for your show, and even convert other people who might just be, my friends are going out tonight, I'll go join them. Now it's like, oh, this is fun, I'm going to go check this out. Do you see that in-person interaction helping to drive a lot more podcast growth for these shows?
Yeah, and even virtual, the one phrase that really sparks imagination and sparks interest in an audience is the phrase live from the main stage. When people say, "Hey, I'm going to be at the Poduty Podcast Theater. We're doing our show live from the main stage," that instantly adds a level of credibility that they didn't have a week ago releasing on every Tuesday. When now the next week, hey, we're going to be live on the main stage, and that that there's something magical about that saying that you don't get from just a regular release schedule. And bringing people in, I don't know if you have a policy on math. I have a math equation that helps, I think, really people to see the value of in person is, Libsyn publishes podcast rates, and they'll tell you on average a host read ad gets about $25 per 1,000 downloads. So if you break that down, that's about 2 cents, right, per listen. And you're like, okay, well, that's not bad. I would love to have that scale. And we also know most podcasts don't get to 1,000 to 2,000 downloads. So taking that's probably a best case scenario for 80 to 90% of all podcasts. Maybe make $50 from a host read ad. Now, what I'm proposing is let's book a show. Let's put something together. And if you were to sell 10 tickets at $10 a ticket, you bring in friends, family, local fans, all of a sudden, those 10 people with once the way my business model works is we split the door at the end of the night. Whatever comes in, we go 50-50. There's no minimums for the host. There's no upfront fees. It's just simple door split. That's it. So there's no risk to my creators. That's something I'm very proud of. But that 50% of the $100 is also $50. So the value of those 10 listeners were $5 a listener. That's easily 250 times greater per person than the host read ad. So when you start to think, oh, maybe I could scale this. What if I got 20, people to my next show, or 25 or 30? All of a sudden, there's a whole new revenue stream for podcasters that aren't just based on chasing this. I got to get host read ads. If I get host read ads, I'm going to make all the money. There are other ways to get here. And when you're at a place, an establishment, maybe you're at a bar and there's drinks and you're having fun and there's 50 people hanging out who all love podcasts. They love your show. Maybe they want to pick up some of your merch. It's a whole different element than, just sitting in your house trying to get to that host read ad. You're even trying to get the ad.
Right. And I got to say, it's funny. I do the exact same math and presentations when I talk about the difference between, advertisement, sponsor, or supported podcasting versus direct support, right? Like you said, 2.5 cents, right, for a person when you are doing an ad. Whereas if you run some monthly premium membership, right, you can charge $5, $10. I've seen people charge $20, and that's per person, right? So the math is just so much better when you can get your audience to directly support what it is you're doing, and creating a live event creates enough value that people are willing to do so. So many podcasts, though, are, their audiences are spread out. And so I'm curious, one, do you find that the shows that come in and are successful, do they have more of a local focus? Or if not, how are they bringing people in when their audience might be, really spread out, and they might not really have the 40, 50, whatever many people to fill that space in their local market?
Yeah, I try to tell people, think of the stage like a portal. Everybody knows that scene in Star Trek where they go, down below and Scotty's down there to beam them up and down from the planet to the ship. And really, this stage is that portal. So if you are spread out, that's not a problem. We do full live streaming. We have 5 cameras surrounding the stage. We can switch between all of them at any time. We have an audience cam as well. Your audience doesn't have to be local. That's certainly a limitation in Pittsburgh. We don't have a huge podcast scene. We have enough. We have some people around, but a lot of shows, even my trivia show, it's everywhere. So I need to be able to get that show. I need to be able to bring people in from Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon. We can connect all those dots for them and not only broadcast, but also have their guests virtually on our main stage as well.
I got to imagine, though, if you're in front of a live audience, if you're claiming to be on stage and you don't have 10, 15, 20 people, the virtual audience isn't hearing that audience reaction. And does that potentially hurt, the show, the product? Does it, not give it the same juice that they're looking for?
No, I don't think it matters too much because it is a small theater. It's designed to be immersive. It's designed to be intimate. Even with 40 people, you're never more than 3 rows away. So it's not like there's an audience of thousands. You're going to hear that rumble of the room laughter. I don't think it's really based on the podcast and their performance. Everything else is secondary. If we do get some laughs, that's fine. If not, the focus is on the stage and on the star, or on the podcast.
Well, again, because you've invested into this space, right? Everybody sounds good. The video is looking good. So right away that elevates their production value. It's going to, make it look more professional and something more appealing to the folks who are tuning in virtually to check it out. We are chatting with Jeff Revilla. He is the founder of Padutty. It's a podcast theater outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it sounds like it would be an excellent space for podcasters who are, one, looking to get, make that transition from doing everything alone, on a platform like Riverside or Zoom or something like that, to making that leap to more in-person events and whatnot. And it just sounds like it would be a ton of fun and a great way to kind of meet your audience. Jeff, before we let you go, we have a couple of questions we'd like to ask everybody on the show. And I mean, I'm sure this first one, I could probably tell where you're going to go with it, but I'll ask anyway. Is there another place in podcasting where you would like to see some improvements, whether it's from the production side, distribution, listening, right? Is it just something that really, gets at your craw about podcasting that you'd love to fix?
Yeah, I really, when I think back to when I started listening to podcasts in 2006, 7, and 8, that DIY element, I feel like some of the smaller podcasters, with two things I really think happened. One, COVID created a flood of shows that are now dormant, shows that produced one episode, and then it's muddying up the feed. So that kind of drowned out some of the voices of active podcasters. And then the influx of celebrities and comedians have taken some of the attention away in that pool of, there's only so much time in the day. People can only listen to so many podcasts in a day. So I want to bring back the balance to those independent creators and kind of skew it back so that, we're the dominant force in podcasting again, not the top 10 that you hear referenced on every news show every night of the week. I want to build up some of the smaller shows, bring back that DIY independent mentality.
Love it. I imagine that you have your, facilities pretty well tricked out, but is there any technology on your wish list, whether it's something that is already out there that you've been eyeing, or maybe something that has yet to be created that you would like to get your hands on?
I need a little more budget. I'd love to get some PTZs in there. Right now, I got 5 stationary cameras that I can just zoom in and zoom out, which is fine. It gets us started, and things will grow. As far as technology outside of this, I'm not sure. I've kind of pushed the limits of what you can do with 2 mixers and a StreamYard. So for right now, I'm pretty happy with what we got. But other things would just be getting some PTZs in there.
I hear you. We are eyeing a bunch of those right now for some projects that we are working on. So they are lovely. And finally, is there a podcast that you listen to that is your favorite, right? It's one of those shows that as soon as a new episode comes out, you are going to listen to it, or, you're not going to let an episode, just sit in your playlist for too long.
As far as some of the fun ones that I listen, I still listen to Marketing Over Coffee to this day. I still I like, there's some other trivia spaces, Trivia Warfare and Triviality are some of my favorites. So I kind of stay in that space a little bit, and I just like the idea of, those 3 shows have been around for a while, and they've been doing it well for a while, and they're independent and produced by themselves. So I try to stick with them and support them as much as I can.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we throw a link to those shows as well so people can check them out. We've been chatting with Jeff Revilla, founder of Poduty Live. It is a podcast theater based in, what's the name of the town again?
Tarentum,
PA. That's just outside of Pittsburgh. Thank you for the assist there, Jeff. And thank you, of course, for joining me here on the show. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.